Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was waiting for you guys to stop for me to do it. Okay. Welcome to the Cinema Recall Halloween episode. And now, your host, the Vern.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, hello everyone. You're obviously thanking us or hating us completely for ruining or maybe breaking your day with that interpretation of the Halloween theme song, the iconic Halloween theme song. Welcome everyone to Cinema Recall Podcast. I am one of your hosts, the Vern. Our lovely co-host Ashley cannot be on this episode, but that's okay. I've got two wonderful people here with me right now, helping me out with that theme music with his wonderful dulcet tones there. The wonderful Ed from the Film Effect Podcast. Hello, Ed.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing good. Welcome to the show. And
Thanks
the person that
me.
you can... Oh, thank you, bud. And the person you cannot see right now, but you can hear, it is Mr. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcast. Say hello, Jason.
Hey, hello everybody. Sorry to the visual people. I'm getting over a cold and you don't want to see me right now.
That's totally fair. But this is a horror show, so maybe they would. I don't know, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding there. No. But I'm grateful we have you on here. Yes, we clicked on the link. We are going to be discussing the Halloween franchise. The franchise that got started by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill back in 1978. And we are going to be breaking this down into series real quickly here. First of all, gentlemen, thank you. Welcome to the show. Appreciate that you're on here. I guess, do you want to just start right now with the first one and just kind of go on from there? What do you want to do, Ed?
Pretty much. I mean, you gotta start with the first one. It's pretty much a choose your own adventure from there.
That's right. No, it's true. Yes, for a series. So I'm holding in my hand right now the 4K Blu-ray of the 1978 original Halloween, Jim Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance story about a young girl who is stalked by a vicious killer at the night of her babysitting job. And just really quickly, just from you, Jason, and then you, Ed. Let's start with you, Jason. When did you first see the first Halloween movie?
Oh, man. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. I got a funny story to go with that.
Okay.
Hang on a second. I'll take a drink here. Okay. I was in the 4th grade. And I remember this because my teacher, I had a music teacher, and she was trying to teach us the importance of music in movies. And she landed on Halloween, the movie, and she was trying to show us that every time Michael Myers came on, the iconic song would come on to designate, anytime you hear that music, the bad guy's on screen. So she played the opening of the movie Halloween, which I don't think I need to remind you, gentlemen. There's boobs in it and act of sex. And I want to remind you again, I said I was in the 4th grade. So this movie's chugging along, and then it gets to that part, and she starts freaking out because she went to the back of the classroom, and she was like, "Oh my God!" And she ran to the front to turn off the VCR because she completely forgot or didn't know or something that there was nudity and boobs and hints of sex at the beginning. And then she's like, well, anyway, that's the, music in movies. And then, so that was technically my introduction to the Halloween movie, the first Halloween movie. And then later on, I don't know, I'm probably like a teenager at that point. I probably see the whole thing finally. But yeah, I like telling that story because it's funny.
Yeah, well, first of all, the original Halloween doesn't really have much nudity in there. Most of the camera is above the nipples.
Well, in the beginning of the first movie, there is, if you forgot.
Yeah, and there's also the other scene with PJ Souls.
Yeah, and PJ Souls later on, yeah.
But yeah, the one PJ Souls, they don't really show the full-on like breast, and then
did you watch an edited version, Vern?
I was gonna say, what version did you watch, Vern?
I watched the one that was on my Blu-ray there, and it does show tits, but does not full defined tits. It's just you can tell it's tits, but not enough to offend anyone.
You might have had your eyes closed or something. So there's. I mean, it's not like titties every 2 seconds or anything, but it's pretty steady. You know, there's the scenes with the nudity, and it does begin. You know, at the start of the movie, we see Judith Meyer's tits at the beginning after she's putting her clothes back on after having sex for 15 seconds with the boyfriend.
15 seconds, Steed.
Because you see them go upstairs, and then Michael walks into the house, and then the instant he gets to the house, they're coming back down the stairs, and you're like, did they have sex in that short ass amount of time that it took Michael Myers to walk into the house? Because that was not long at all.
That's fair. Okay. Ed, where were you when you first saw Halloween?
Oh man, I mean, I've been watching Halloween all my life for the most part. I mean,
sure.
I've talked about this on my podcast numerous times. How I've been into horror since a very young age, like 4 or 5 years old is when I got into horror. And I've told this story so many times. I'll tell it again because I enjoy telling it. There's an old local horror show every Saturday afternoon called Nightmare Theater here in Baltimore. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, Channel 54. And it was always a 2-hour, 2 to 4 block every Saturday, different horror movie. And that's when I first saw Halloween. It stuck with me because I just remembered how this killer, he wasn't going around hacking people up like Freddy and Jason and all the other horror icons that I had seen at the time. He was just kind of, slow burning. And it was something different. It was just that anticipation, and the atmosphere and everything that just I appreciated at a very young age. And the film stuck with me, and also the fact that the film is hardly, it's very bloodless. There's hardly any blood at all in this movie. Things like that stood out. But what really caught me was just Michael Myers, the character, and the atmosphere and everything. John Carpenter's music, his direction, all the things just struck me at a very young age. And ever since then, it's a film that I've revisited. I can't even guesstimate how many times I've seen this movie, but it's quite up there. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the best. So
it's a movie for me that feels real.
Yeah.
Compared to other slasher movies. Just because I think John Carpenter and Deborah Hill really had you believe in Laurie Strode and her friends. They talked like real characters would talk. They had similar dreams and aspirations that everyone would have. And the town just felt like a real town. It felt like the town that my grandma lived in and I visited as a kid. Walking down the streets of Winona, Minnesota reminded me a lot of Haddonfield, and it just always stuck with me there. In fact, first time I ever watched Halloween was at my grandma's house, and it was a fall evening on like a VHS, and it was just a great time, and I'm going to watch that. And you, Jason, you brought up a good sequence with the music, because there's that, and I'm going to do a horrible interpretation of the music, and I apologize for our listeners out there, but it's that do 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 bam bam bam. And I don't know why, but that music right there always evokes a fear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like
that was the point my teacher was trying to make.
Yeah. So that was good. I don't think we need to story more about the first Halloween because it's an iconic classic. I love how it ends. Like that ends in shots where they're showing all the streets and all the houses that Michael Myers has visited, and all you hear, that alone always makes me feel tension. And I've seen the movie many times, but just hear that breathing voice going on there brings me with dread. Do you guys have like a favorite moment of that movie before we move on?
I mean, it's one of my favorite moments is the ending. It's just so iconic how Loomis shoots him off the balcony and then goes to check on Laurie, comes back, and he's gone. It's just a silhouette of his figure on the grass, and then cut to all the iconic shots from the movie, and then you hear him breathing. It gets heavier and heavier, and then hard cut the credits. I think it's one of the best, perfect put together endings in all of film. Honestly, it's effective.
Jason, or should I say the voice of Jason? We can't see you. We don't know if you're really there or not. Did someone kill you?
I'm here.
Okay.
Really, my favorite part I think is when he kills. I can't remember. I think it's George, the boyfriend with the glasses.
Bob.
He kills him, or Bob. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He kills him and he stabs him, holding him up through the pantry, and he's kind of standing there like admiring his work.
Yeah.
The fact that he just stabbed a guy up onto like a pantry shelf or whatever. Like, I like that part. And then he puts on that ghost, the sheet or whatever, to pretend to be the ghost, and tricks the girl, like, hey, this is me, and this is where you see boobs, Vern.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, maybe you're right. Okay. Now I gotta rewatch it now again for the 5th or 7th time. All right, so we move on from Halloween to Halloween 2. I do know that at the time, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill didn't really want to make a sequel to this, and they were sort of like put in a situation where the only way that they could get financing for their movie The Fog and for Escape from New York, they had to write a script for Halloween 2. Halloween 2 was then directed by Rick Rosenthal, and it picks up just mere minutes after the end of the first movie. And I gotta say, I think this is absolutely great, because Halloween 2 was like made, in 1981?
81, that's when it came out.
I think they used a lot of the same visuals from the first one. I believe Dean Cundy came back as director of photography. I don't know for sure.
Yes,
but
he shot the first 3, actually.
He did, oh, perfect, yeah.
He came out for the third. He came out for Season of the Witch also.
Oh, beautiful. That's right. Okay. But just the way that it flows from the first movie to the second movie is good. In the second one, Laurie Strode is taken to a hospital, and Michael Myers begins stalking her there. But just quick thoughts about Halloween 2, because I think from the opening credits, which to this day, with that pumpkin opening up, and you're seeing that skull inside the head, and you got the addition of, like, I think it was like John Carpenter, and I forgot the guy's name, Alan
Howard.
Yes, Alan Howard. Thank you very. Thank you very much. Anderson's story of that was really cool. But I'll start with you, Ed. Just give me your general thoughts about Halloween 2.
Halloween 2 is a film that has grown on me over the years. Let's put it that way. It's a movie that, sort of like the first film, has always been on television. It's a film that I've always seen, not as much as the first movie. And the reason for that is because I've always, at a younger age, I felt that Halloween 2 was just more of the same. It was a generic slasher movie. It was completely different from the first movie. Whereas everything I talked about in the first movie about how it's bloodless and all that, and a slow burn and atmospheric and everything, that's all gone in this movie. You're pretty much grounded to one location. The body count is like quadrupled. Michael Myers is it's the exact opposite of bloodless, and that's not all bad things necessarily. It's just, I don't know. When there's so many other movies that were more the same from the 80s, and you grew up watching them as well, like, this was just another run of the mill. But and looking at it from a franchise perspective, it's a film that I've definitely appreciated more and more as I've gotten older. I would say it's fully come around. I've fully come around to it over the last 5 or 6 years, maybe a little bit more. Around the time that Scream Factory put out those collector's editions on Blu-ray, is when I kind of revisited it and watched all the bonus features and appreciated it more. But yeah, it's a really interesting story as to how it came to be. As a matter of fact, John Carpenter was just on Mick Garris's postmortem podcast talking about it. You're right for the most part. Him and Deborah didn't want to do it. What had happened was he had signed not long after Halloween came out. He went around urban. Oh my God.
You're blurred or
I'm
something.
stumping on his name. The producer, one of the EPs from the first movie. He basically signed a two-picture deal with Avco Embassy for The Fog and Escape from New York. And once I'm stumping on the guy's name, the producer, Irwin something. When he found out about this, because he all along he thought that him and John were going to come back and do part 2 together, and then once he found out that John signed this picture deal, he pretty much was going to take him to court. He might have actually done so, but the outcome was write this movie for us, write this sequel, and all will be forgotten. And that's pretty much how he was pretty much forced to write part 2. I think he wrote it over like a 10-day period with a lot of beer consumption and a lot of angst. So,
oh sure.
But yeah, I mean it's like I said, it's a film that took a little while to come for me to come around to. But there's things about it I still don't like. But as a whole, I like it. Yes, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, this is the one that introduced Michael Myers as being the brother of Laurie Strode and his supernatural elements, which we're trying to get into later on too with the other sequels there. But Jason, what are your thoughts about Halloween 2? Are you a fan? Not a fan?
No, I like Halloween 2. I think it's a decent movie, a decent sequel. I like I like that it continues from the first movie, like it's just a extension of the first movie.
That too.
Yeah.
And then I will say there's one very unrealistic part in this. Twice in the past few years, I was in a hospital for like a few days, and I'm gonna tell you, hospitals are super busy at like 3 a.m. And this hospital was like dead as shit. There was like 4, maybe not even 4 nurses. Seems like there were no patients. It was like they just kicked everyone out for Halloween, I guess. I don't know. But that was like...
Hospitals in Haddonfield close at midnight, Jason. That's the rules.
Oh, okay,
if you're sick and you're dying, you're just fucked. You can't get in the hospital at all.
You have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I do enjoy this movie. And I like the ending of it. I like the way it ends. I like how it was supposed to be the final. You know, right. I mean, it seemed like it summed up pretty quickly. Like, everyone just blew up. It's like, hey, we're going to all blow up, and then that's the end. No more.
Yep.
But then Friday the 13th did a similar thing as well, where they killed Jason in part 4, and that was supposed to be the last one. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to bring him back.
Now, after Halloween 2, now we're kind of going through, like, time series here. So the way that Michael Myers franchise breaks off is really kind of fascinating. I do want to talk a little bit about Halloween 3, just because I know that John Carpenter and Deborah Hill wanted to create a new series, because they wanted these movies to be an anthology. They want to have each movie be a different story taking place around Halloween. So they gave the direct and written credits to their production designer of Halloween, Tommy Lee Wallace, who wrote the script about
Well, he used to shape
this.
in the first film in a couple scenes.
Is he? Oh, I didn't
Tommy
know
Lee?
that.
Yeah, he plays the shape
Tommy Lee?
in the famous closet scene. The when Michael's busting the closet door or whatever to get the Laurie, and she pokes him in the eye at the hangar. That's Tommy Lee Wallace. That's not
Nick Castle?
No, because it's
Really?
stunt work.
Oh.
And Tommy Lee Wallace did the stunt work as the shape in the first film.
I did not know that. I thought it was all Nick Castle doing the shape stunt work there. All right. Well, that's
Castle's
cool.
the shape in like 90% of the film, but then you've got the Tommy Lee Wallace stuff, and then you have that one shot with Tony Moran.
Gotcha.
When he takes it
All
off.
right.
So.
Well, in Halloween 3, the story involves a doctor who finds a patient holding a Halloween mask, and you got this guy who burns himself in his car. he teams up with the dead guy's daughter to investigate about where the masks are being made, and then they go
They end up
to
sleeping
this
together?
village. Well, of course. That's what you
It's
do
Tom
when you
Atkins.
go on.
You got to mention that first off. The Dr. Dan
of
Chalice,
course.
played by the great Tom Atkins.
That's true. I can't mention that, and I forgot the.
Thrill me.
Was it like Stacy? What's her name here now? Yeah, Stacy Nelkin.
Stacey
as
Nelkin.
the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they go to town, and they find out that these masks are being made by this warlock, and his plan is to have these masks explode at a certain time when these kids watch a certain commercial for Halloween, killing everyone around. And so, Doctor and the daughter of the guy who died, they have to try and stop everyone. And at the time, the movie was considered to be a box office failure because people were so pissed off that Michael Myers was not in this one. But it has grown and is by far my favorite of the franchise. And the one
Really?
that this by all means, my favorite of the franchise is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Just because it has a very much a Twilight Zone-esque vibe to it.
yeah.
I love the fact that it does not end happily. I mean, it ends on a very...
Stop
people
it.
say it's ambiguous.
Stop it.
Stop it! Turn it off! Turn it off! Stop it! Stop it! And that song, that interpretation of London Bridge has fallen down. Hurry up, it's Halloween. Hurry up, it's Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Hurry up, it's Halloween, Silver Shamrock. It's probably maybe the only Halloween movie that actually feels like it's in Halloween and set around Halloween, about the dangers of Halloween and these kids. I find it funny too that these masks are so popular, but there's only like 3 designs, and every kid wants to own these masks. There's in the 1980s when all these cartoons were coming out, these were it. There was no other popular masks,
Old school
but
Don
these-
Post masks.
which I admit now I definitely would have them. But yeah, Jason, we haven't heard from you in a little while, man. Give me your thoughts on Halloween 3, bud.
I think saying it's the best of all of them is a little much, but it's
Honestly, best. I'm saying it's my favorite.
Bold.
yeah, that's still a bold statement. It's good. It's good. It had to grow on me as well,
Yep.
just to get used to the idea of it. But then when you look at it as like, okay, this is supposed to be a separate thing. You know, this is supposed to be a self-contained story. You get over to Michael Myers not being in it thing, and it's actually a pretty decent like mystery thriller horror story. I just want to know how the one dude got Stonehenge all the way from England to this town in America. That's my only question about this movie. But other than that, I actually do like this movie for what it is.
And also, why didn't girl Dr. Chalice there know that the girl he was sleeping with is a fembot?
Because I think that happened later.
Because that happens after.
Oh, okay. Did they switch their bodies?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So she gets
That-
kidnapped. And I think
Yeah.
that's the implication is that's when it happens.
Oh, okay.
But-
all right, good. That
If I
makes
may,
sense
I
now.
have to acknowledge the fact that this film also features Dick Warlock making his second Halloween appearance. He was the Shape in Part 2, and he's one of the silent robotic assassins in this film.
Oh, very good. Okay. Didn't realize that.
I like
Ah,
Dick Warlock. I was watching
Ew.
Pumpkinhead over the weekend, and I forgot that he's in that movie too.
And I forgot to mention, too, that our wonderful villain in this movie is played by Dan O'Hurley.
Dan O'Hurley, the old man from RoboCop.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. It still looks the same.
Yeah.
It's like this appearance has not changed much at all. I do remind people too. Thank you very much for listening to Cinema Recall. Remind you that we are available everywhere podcasts are: Podchaser, Google Pods, Spotify. We're available also on YouTube, and also please listen to us every Sunday at FullSwapRadio.com for their Vanilla Sundays. Full Swap Radio, your one-stop shop for all of your kink and fetish podcasts. You can find us there. That's right. Moving on real quickly now to Halloween 4. And we're gonna do this kind of separate style here because we got one timeline with Jamie Lloyd, Laurie Strode's daughter, and then we have. But should we go to the Jamie Lloyd saga, or should we go back to Laurie Strode for Halloween H2O?
I mean, if we're gonna, it's up to you. At this point, we can either do the entire thing from start to finish, or we can just do timelines. Because if we're gonna do timelines, then we should do. Because you only just briefly acknowledged part 3, so the correct thing to do would go to H2O.
You're right.
And then go back because we have to follow the first one again to get to the new trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, we can just do the Jamie Lee. Let's do H2O, and then since we have to acknowledge Resurrection because technically it does follow H2O.
We'll
do that, and then come back to the Lloyd trilogy.
Okay, let's do the first Laurie Strode saga, and then we'll go back to Jamie Lloyd, and then we'll go back to the other Laurie Strode saga. Okay, so moving on there to Halloween H2O, where Laurie Strode. I remember H2O being a big thing, and in this story, Laurie Strode has faked her death, and now is going under a different name. She's now the headmistress of this prestigious academy.
Carrie Tate.
Carrie Tate, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And I want to say Josh Halloran, or what? Her son is Josh.
Oh, Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett from Virgin Suicide.
His first movie.
All right, and he wants to go off to this event with his friends, and his mother doesn't want him to because it's the anniversary of Michael Myers, and she's been 20 years trying to keep hiding from him. And Michael Myers does find her after he finds out her information after stalking a nurse from the hospital. Yeah,
it's the nurse.
The nurse that drove Loomis, right, from the first one.
She's the nurse from the first 2 movies. She's in the first movie as the woman in the car when Michael escapes.
Yeah.
And then she shows up in the second one to basically lead Loomis to the hospital. So and she's also the one that reveals that Michael is Laurie's brother.
Mm. All right.
Chambers, Marion Chambers, that's her name. Nurse Chambers.
Okay.
So he kills her in the opening, the cold open, because in the there's 90s slasher movies, you had to have a cold open where someone dies, because Scream started that whole thing off. So we have the nurse Chambers. She gets killed, and the reason we find out why Michael went after her is because we find out that she was actually, she had Loomis up until his passing. Like she was like his keeper or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then she also had all the information. As why she would have this information, totally beyond me. No idea. But she does. And that's how Michael finds out about Laurie's new identity, how she's across the country in California, somewhere in Glen to be exact. And that starts that whole, rigmarole of events. So, proceed.
I do like this movie because it has a really great cast of characters. You got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this. You even have Jamie Lee Curtis' mom, the great Janet Leigh, making a cameo appearance in this, which I thought was actually cool.
And she's driving the exact same car she did in Psycho.
Oh, that's epic. Thank you. I totally forgot about that. Michelle Williams is in this. Adam Arkin, LL Cool J, and I know that this was made... I don't think, but didn't Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream, have producer credits for this? Did he?
I think he has an EP credit. I think he was supposed to write this, or maybe he did do some uncredited rewrites on the polishing up of the dialogue and whatnot.
That makes sense. That definitely seems like.
But
that.
This was originally announced as something completely different. I remember my initial announcement. I remember reading how I found out about H2O. Let me backpedal a little bit. Was about a year prior to this, so like 97. And I was an avid reader of Fangoria magazine, and there was always a blurb in every issue of coming up, stuff that's coming up stuff that's going to be in production soon, because this is pre-internet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I remember hearing about it. And I remember very distinctly the title, Halloween H2O, and I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? Halloween water?
Yes.
But it didn't
Michael Myers was
emphasize
underwater.
the H was Halloween and 20 was 20 years later. It just said, new Halloween film, bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter's directing. Sold.
Yes.
But then as things started to boil down, Carpenter ended up leaving. I think he asked for too much, and the Weinsteins were like, go kick sand. And enter Steve Miner, who has, a lot of ties in the horror world. I mean, he did Friday 2, Friday 3, House. I mean, he's got
nice.
a pretty big list of credentials for in the genre. So I was very happy for him, as a replacement. At least it was someone who I was familiar with at that age in my life. I was 13 when this was first announced. Mm-hmm. So, I just watched this film over the weekend, literally like 2 days ago. So, I've seen this film a lot. So it was my first Michael Myers film in the theaters.
Sure.
Saw it with my mother, my kid brother, opening weekend. Had a blast. It's very short. This film is so short. Oh my god.
It is short.
It is a brisk 80 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah.
I forgot about how short it is.
This is a short movie.
Jason, what are your
it's fun though.
Yeah, Jason, what are your kind of quick thoughts on Halloween H2O?
I saw it opening night in the theater.
Nice.
I was very excited for it as well. I didn't know what H2O meant either. Until, actually, I think I figured it out on my own. Because I knew it was 98. And then I was like, wait, the original movie was 78. Oh, Halloween 20 years later. Okay, I get it. If somehow you get into a time machine and can go see this in a theater, I recommend it, because the reactions to everything was great.
Yeah, it was
especially the ending when... the head gets Michael Myers' head gets cut off, and all that stuff was going down. Like that was amazing to see live in theater. But yeah, I enjoy it. I don't revisit this one very often, but I do like it for what it is. But it's not a bad movie. Yeah, I dig it.
I really like the evolution of Laurie Strode's character, especially from the first two to this one, because in the first one, she's being chased. The second movie, she just is in a hospital bed, just not really doing much until
collected a
the very
paycheck,
end.
pretty much. It's like she was on set for 2 days when they shot that.
Yes. Very
Gave her
much
the
true.
worst wig ever.
Yes. And in this one, she's able to kind of become the heroine and battle her demons, because she spent the whole movies and her series just hiding from this thing, not chasing after her fears or facing them, and this time she actually does face her fears, and she's able to kill Michael Myers, and it was a great send-off to the series, and as characters, I'm thinking, yes, great ending, we can be done with Michael Myers. He was sent off in a great way, but, of course, that, as we all know, is not the case, sadly enough. And we gotta talk real briefly about Halloween Resurrections. And I know that she did that movie because she was in contract, but she would only be in Resurrections if she was killed off.
Yeah,
and I know that originally the producers of Halloween H2O didn't want Michael Myers to be killed at all, because they want, of course,
Mustafa Akkad. Mustafa Akkad, the longtime producer of the entire series since the original film, pretty much had a long withstanding, thing in his contract. It was like, you cannot kill Michael Myers off. Like, it was forbidden.
Yeah.
Like, he basically said, he allowed the H2O ending to happen, but I think the catch was they had to shoot something to show. So, what I'm getting at is, briefly in the beginning of Resurrection, they cut back to H2O as this nurse is like just dumping this exposition crap to this other nurse in the beginning, and they kind of show this EMT checking on Michael, and then he like chokes him against the wall and supposedly crushes his larynx, and then swaps the body out, and then you see a shot of Michael Myers walking away with the EMT suit, holding a knife still. Why he would still be carrying that knife is beyond me. But I believe that was all shot 3 years prior at the tail end of production of H2O. Don't quote me. I think I've heard that in a couple of places where that was the stipulation. Like, you can have this ending where he's cut off, or his head's cut off, yada yada, but let's shoot this first, just to have in our back pocket.
So basically they killed the wrong person, and now Laurie Strode's in a mental hospital because of it, and Michael Myers finds her, and they have like one brief moment where they kiss, and Laurie Strode says, "I'll see you in hell, Michael," and before he kills her and falls to her death, the most stupidest thing ever. What I hate the most about this beginning, it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Like, they did totally not.
I was just gonna say, what gets me is she has like the whole Home Alone concoction already established on the rooftop. Like, she was expecting this.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of rules this place has where they allow their patients to go on the roof, but one in Rome.
That's true. Always let her do her thing. That's what she does at Cobra thing. She likes to build these lemon traps. It's best not to think about it, guys. Just move on to your day. She's supposed to be comatose.
They keep feeding her these pills, and she's putting her in this little Lulu doll. But what are you gonna do?
Yep. Exactly.
And that's pretty much how Resurrection ends for me.
Yes, true. Yes, that's true. And just briefly though, Busta Rhymes and a bunch of other Tyra Banks, bunch of people are going to go into
the Rookie of the Year.
Oh shit! Yep. Okay. Bunch of these kids are going to go to the Michael Myers house and do a reality show there, and Michael Myers shows up and starts killing people. That's the end. The most powerful being in the world gets killed by Busta Rhymes doing kung fu. Is
that not how you would want to end a iconic series of having a rapper from the 90s to the 2000s do kung fu on you? That's how I want to go out. I want to have Genuine come and kill me doing kung fu moves. Wouldn't you guys?
Yeah, but they got to see something cool like trick or treat, motherfucker.
Exactly. It's got to do a one-liner.
Got one line right there. All right, we are gonna move back in time to talk about real quickly the Jamie Lloyd saga with Halloween 4. This time with Michael Myers hunting is it the niece or daughter of Laurie Strode? Is it her daughter or it's her daughter?
It's her daughter.
It's his niece.
It's his niece.
His niece, right?
It's his niece or daughter. Yep.
Her daughter. Thank you. And in this timeline, Laurie Strode died of a car accident, so she's out of the picture. And now we got Jamie Lloyd, played by the wonderful Danielle Harris, in this saga. And I really enjoyed Halloween 4. It's got a really great opening credits that just shows scenes. It just shows settings of different Halloweens out in the wilderness, and everything looks dark and bleak and brisk. Don't necessarily like the mask of Michael Myers. I like the return of Loomis, Donald Pleasant's character. I don't like the way they explain how they survived this building being exploded by just having a few scars on Loomis's face, and Michael Myers' hand seems to be a little bit well stretched there. But
he has an egg on his face for half the movie. It looks like an egg is right here underneath of his left eye.
That's true.
Aside from his return's a little anticlimactic, but other than that, Four is one of my favorite sequels. I would say 4 is like my third overall favorite film of this franchise.
Okay.
I just love, one of the things I love the most about it is how it feels like an authentic fall movie, especially the opening credits. I love the opening credits so much. It's just all these shots of just the Midwest and landscape in the fall, and there's not even any music playing. It's just Alan Howarth with like just it's hard to explain like what he's doing with the music or lack thereof, but he's doing something, and it's great. And then I'm not a big fan of the mask either, especially for that one shot when he shows up and all of a sudden he's got blonde hair when he throws Loomis out the window in the school. Other than that, it's a fun movie. It's another one that I grew up watching a lot. I think I've seen this one the second most times overall, next to the first one. I've been a fan of this film all my life.
As a kid, I liked this movie because we actually get to see a kid outwit Michael Myers.
Yeah.
It wasn't like teenagers; it was kids. So at the time, it felt relatable to me. Like, oh wow, I'm watching this kid be able to do things and control things. And what I really liked about this movie is the ending of it, where it's revealed that Jamie Lloyd is wearing the same mask that Michael wore in the beginning of Halloween and holding a knife and has apparently killed her aunt, right? Was that her aunt that was... Or her guardian,
it's her
was
foster
that her...
parent. It's her foster mother that she kills.
Okay. Alright, yeah. And it just ends
on
this...
It would be Rachel's mother while she's making her bath before she stabs her to death, and she seemingly dies, even though... We'll get to it. The fifth one, it just kind of retracts all of that.
Which is a weird thing, too. I don't understand why it changes things, but... Jason, I'll ask you, do you have, like, a favorite moment from Halloween 4, or, like, general thoughts about that?
Do you like Halloween 4? I don't think we heard him talk about this at all.
Yeah. I do like Halloween 4. It's pretty good. The explanation of how Loomis and Michael survived is pretty dumb. But if I remember correctly, and I think I do, this is the one with the sheriff's daughter. And
cops do it by the book.
She was hot, and I appreciated those scenes. And but overall, I think this is a pretty solid little movie. It's a little underrated. I think people, don't care for it because it's not as grand as the first movie. But take what you can get. It's not that bad. But yeah, I like it.
Yep. And then where do things go wrong for you, Ed, for Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers? I do like the opening credits of Halloween 5 with the quick cuts and slash and knives and...
I do too, but that's kind of where the film just kind of stops for me. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with Halloween 5.
Let me ask you this real quickly, Ed. So, the beginning of the movie, Michael Myers is living with this hobo, because at the end of the first one, he's shot to hell.
They retcon the ending of the fourth film completely. Not only do they retcon all that happens with Jamie and all that, but
and I forgot to mention people too.
Even Michael's death is retcon for the movie because they add dynamite to it, like it's a goddamn Looney Tunes episode. Because that's not the fourth one. The dynamite doesn't show up until the fifth one, and then that's when they throw it down the little shaft that he falls into, and then you see him kind of get blown out, and then he just strolls down the river. And this old hermit with the parrot finds him, and then he collapses. And mind you, it's still Halloween night because it's the end of the fourth film, and that was on Halloween, obviously. And then we do a cut to 1 year later, and it's Halloween again, and he just wakes up.
Did people not search for Michael Myers anymore in this saga? Did they just stop after they shot him and blew him up with dynamite?
They just assumed that he died in the shaft. They threw dynamite. He's dead, right?
Oh, okay,
which
sure.
They're fine.
Yeah.
We blew him up.
Yeah, okay.
That's what they're thinking. And like I said, it's that I hate how they just. I hate how they do it. They wipe a lot of 4 away. Like they all of a sudden Tina is now mute. Where'd that come from? She doesn't speak at all.
Yeah, and Jamie Lloyd mute. Yeah, that's
and her sister was, one of the strongest female characters of the franchise, I would argue.
Yes.
But she just goes out so quickly, and it's insulting how she goes out in the fifth one. Just comes out of the shower and gets stabbed to death with scissors, and it's like, really? All that fighting in the fourth one, and you're going to go out like that? And I hate the mask so much. Michael all of a sudden has a receding hairline.
He gets older,
just,
Ed. Dude, this guy has been around for a while there. Sometimes
I know.
serial killer's bald, dude. It happens, man.
That jot down the river did a number. I get it. But the biggest sin, I would say, for part 5 for me, personally, is the house. You had one job. One job. Rewatch the first film. Get that house. Make it close. They just completely disregarded every single shot of the Myers house from any film prior to this. And they go and they shoot. It's a Victorian house. It's a completely different house. It's like a freaking mansion on a corner street. And it's like, this is not the Myers house, guys. But Halloween 5 is going to tell me differently.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's one of my problems. But it's, trust me, it's flooded with problems. And it's not even my worst, it's not even my least favorite film of the series.
Okay.
We actually just talked about that. Resurrection.
Resurrections, yes. What I do not like about 5, all the things you mentioned, the way they changed Jamie Lloyd's character in this, and
right.
How Michael Myers escapes the house. I do gotta talk about her best friend Tina.
Tina! I knew you were gonna say that. Someone always brings up Tina.
Tina's one of the most annoying characters ever, who just doesn't give a shit about anyone but herself. And yet, wants to yell at Loomis for wanting to protect this girl. And she's like, no, they're going for trick-or-treating, ha ha ha, everything's fine. She grates on me. God. I don't know, Jason, you're being silent there. Are you a fan of Halloween 5? Are you going to school us and tell us that
I've
this is
only
your favorite?
seen this once, and that was kind of enough for me.
Okay.
Not a fan of it.
Smart man.
I don't even remember a lot that happens in it. I just was just so disappointed by it. And is this where Paul Rudd comes in, or is that 6?
That's number 6.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Those two blend in for me. Spoiler alert, I wasn't a fan of 6 either. But we'll get to that. But I know he jumped in somewhere. I can't remember which movie it was. But not a fan. Won't revisit.
And isn't this the one too that brings in the whole Thorn cult?
I think this is the start of it.
You see the tattoo on his wrist in one shot, and it's just, that's it. There's no mention of it. You just see the triangle with the line on his wrist.
If I'm remembering correctly, there was like a shadowy guy at the end.
I was gonna bring that up. The Man in Black.
Yeah,
because it ends with Michael getting broken out of prison by a guy with a Tommy gun.
Yeah, and
Literally.
I think and then that's supposed to be like the connection. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this movie or the next one.
So all I know about Halloween 6, because I've only seen it once, because I don't remember this movie coming out to theaters. It was just bam on home video. Because I remember in the 90s I saw. Maybe it was, but where I lived, it just did not come anywhere near me at the time. But I do remember seeing trailers for this. And I remember the trailers always said the origin of Michael Myers.
Yes.
And
it was originally called that. It was called Halloween 666, the origin of Michael Myers. In fact, you can, if you look up the trailer on YouTube, you're probably going to see that trailer. Because I was like, on a lot of video releases at the time. Like, that was... Like the Weinsteins had that movie just showing me for every single Miramax Dimension film in the mid-90s. And for the most part, it was that origin of Michael Myers 666 crap right before it came out theatrically. They were like, no, just call it Halloween, the curse of Michael Myers. Since we did Revenge, Return, well, we got to follow the Pink Panther. And curse now, and that's exactly what they did. That's why 4 is Return, 5 is Revenge, and 6 is Curse.
is like if they kept going with the next one be the son of Michael Myers. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
but then Jamie Lee Curtis stepped in and was like, "Oh no, we have an anniversary to fulfill, fellas."
Yep. Yes. We're gonna stop all that bullshit right there.
Yeah.
So what I remember from number 6, and I'm not going off any notes right now, but Jamie Lloyd is older and now is giving birth to Michael Myers' son.
Yeah, and she's been recast too. Now J.C. Brandy plays Jamie, no longer Danielle Harris. That's a whole other story, probably a whole other podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because there's actually famously 2 versions of Part 6. There's the producer's cut and the theatrical cut.
Okay.
95% of people who have seen both will say they prefer the producer's cut. I'm one of the 95%.
Okay.
But there are some people out there who prefer the theatrical cut. They're
I've
far
only
and few in
seen-
between, but they exist. It's not that the producer's cut is like, it's not a masterpiece by any means. It's still shit. It's just polished up. That's all.
Okay.
And it kind of brings the Thorn subplot, makes it more clear. The producer's cut. The producer's cut actually goes back to Part 5 and answers who the Man in Black is. Not that the theatrical cut does too, but the producer's cut actually shows footage from Part 5 and it was like, hey, remember this guy? This is who he is.
Because like this
But
third
to wrap
cult puts-
to wrap it up, it's a bad movie. It's not as bad as most people make it out to be. There's some redeeming things in this film, I feel, but it's by no means a great film or a good movie. It's just not as bad as what a lot of people make it out to be.
I still remember so much like the third cult, I guess, puts a curse on a different child for that child to become like a killer. That's their whole plan. So they pick this.
Yeah, they try and give Michael a motivation factor, and that's just, don't do that.
Yeah.
He's a motivation. He's a motivationalist killer. He's just someone who has the black eyes, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Doll's eyes. But I've read from someone that in the novelization of the first Halloween, that it goes back to this earlier civilization that has a cult that are putting a curse on different children.
Ooh.
So
It might.
I don't
I've
know.
never read any of the novelizations.
So,
That's a lie.
Yeah, same.
I've read the 3. I've read the novelizations for the David Gordon Green films,
Mhm.
but I've never read anything prior to that. So
Alright.
Yeah, I've never read any of those either.
Gotcha. I do want to recommend too that people do check out Taken Shape, which is all about
Both
the
of
history of the Halloween movies, and that's a lot of fun. Gives you into a lot of great insights into them, which are a lot of fun. Right now, folks, we are going to take just a small little break right now, so I can use the bathroom. I'm going to play some wonderful ad spots on the audio program from some wonderful podcast shows and whatnot, and I'll be right back, okay?
take 5.
All right, be back. Yep, about 2
Okay.
minutes.
I'll be
all
right back myself.
All right, me too.
Go.
Alright, guys. I'm back. Jason. You here? We are on a little break now. Again, hi everyone. We're waiting for our other guests to come back, but this can be a perfect time right now to talk about a few of our sponsors that we have here. Number one, mention real quickly, Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio app for your iOS and Android phone. It puts the most trending articles on the web and reads them to you.
I am back.
You're back. Good. Hey, Jason. Have you heard about Newsly?
Have I seen what?
Have you heard about Newsly?
I don't know what that is.
Newsly is an all-in-one audio app for your iOS and Android phone. It puts the most trending articles on the web and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable. Stop scrolling, start listening. Go to newsly.me and use our promo code RECALL and get 1 month free of their premium service. Now, Jason, can you see me okay?
Yeah.
You see me. How is your memory doing, my friend?
Why did I just walk into an ad? But my memory is doing okay.
Your memory's doing that here. Well, if your memory is lacking and you need to crush procrastination, boost energy and focus, elevate mental clarity, I do recommend Magic Mind. Magic Mind is the all-natural energy supplement, and I tried a few of it, and it's actually pretty good. It's not bad. It reminds me very much of those fruit drinks, those Naked. Reminds me of that, the Naked fruit drinks, but just in a shot form right there. But anyways, go to magicmind.com and you can buy the product, which I'm showing to you right now. I've tried it. It actually does work pretty well. It kind of does wake you up. It's very much like a 500 energy drink, but just using all natural ingredients. So again, go to magicmind.com and we'll talk about them more on our later episodes. So, all right.
Okay.
Yay. So sponsorships are now out of the way. Thank you.
I gotta walk into the ad, and Ed doesn't. Ed, you got lucky.
I just walked in.
What do you?
No, that's the point. I walked into an ad. You didn't. You got to miss the whole ad segment. I had to be the dumbass who was like, "No, what's that? Gosh, Vern, tell me more."
Well,
We should have to play the bass part of the Halloween theme.
I appreciate that very much. Let's talk really quickly right now, briefly, because we're getting back into our Halloween show. Welcome everyone back to Cinema Recall. Let's talk briefly about the Rob Zombie takes on Halloween.
Well, if we have to, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Just really briefly here.
If we want to be completists, let's bring them up.
Because
they exist.
I do kind of respect Rob Zombie doing a different take on Halloween, and he wanted to show Michael Myers as a kid and how he grew up after he killed his sister and what happened to him then. I like Malcolm McDowell in this, and maybe Scout Taylor Compton has some good roles in there too. But I always said this. I felt like Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's movie is more like a Hallmark version of Michael Myers. It just. I'm
gonna say this. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, please jump in.
I'm gonna just say this. Malcolm McDowell is a good Loomis. The Michael Myers is not a good Michael Myers. And I appreciate the different angle that Rob Zombie wanted to take with this. You know, kind of humanizing Michael Myers in a way. But I felt like that was like his whole appeal. Was like we didn't know a lot about him, and we don't know why he does these things. We just assumed he, because you know in the original movie they're just like, oh, there's evil behind those eyes, and he's just an evil kid. Mm-hmm. But it's like here we have to like give him like a sob story, like you know his mother was, you know, not that great. Always had different guys around. Was bullied in school, and then he just snapped. He just snapped one day on Halloween and killed everybody, and then just spent his teenage years going into his 20s, I guess, in a mental institution where he befriends Danny Trejo, and then he gets out. I can get kind of behind the idea, but I think the execution was a little weak.
Does Rob Zombie have to put always like the worst members of the family to be the Myers family? Because goddamn, I wanted to kill him right away. I was surprised that kid lasted so long and lived in the household.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the point. Like he had to go through this abuse for so many years, and it wasn't just at home; it was at school. He got bullied really badly at school. And he just had a rough life as a kid, so he just snapped. And I think that's a little too human, right? Because I think if any one of us went through that whole situation, which is a very exaggerated, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I felt like Rob Zombie was like, let's have every terrible thing happen to this kid, and that's the reason why he snaps and goes crazy and kills people.
It just takes away the mysteriousness of the first movie because you have no idea why he decided to kill his sister
right exactly.
that one night.
Rob gave him a motivation. You didn't need a motivation.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
didn't need to spend half the movie studying his, childhood, adolescence. You didn't need any of that. I understand what they were going for. Here's the thing about Rob Zombie's Halloween. So it came out in 2007. It was roughly 5 years after Resurrection. The franchise was dead at that point. So I could understand wanting to do something different. I still feel a remake was too new. It was still too, I don't know. I just feel like remakes, not that there should be a certain timeline, but I don't know. A film like Halloween doesn't need to be remade. Carpenter did the best version you're ever going to make. You're never going to top Carpenter's 78 Halloween. Ever.
No.
But I understand it's the Weinsteins, and they still had the rights at the time, and so they wanted to go down this route of remaking it. Rob Zombie was hot at the time, coming off of Devil's Rejects, and Corpses, of course. I mean, I'm not going to lie, when I first heard about it, my first thought was, why? But then, at the time I was a zombie fan. This is back when I was a Rob Zombie fan. Now I could just take him or leave him. But, getting back on point here, the film, everything Jason just said is pretty much spot on. The first half of the movie, unnecessary. It makes me hate Michael Myers, if anything. Christ. I mean, Tyler Maine's portrayal, look, Tyler Maine got hired because Tyler Maine's 7 foot tall.
Mm-hmm. Didn't do much.
He wasn't hired for his, acting skills or threat, or not threat, but he was hired for his threat. He's a threatening looking guy. That's the only reason he was hired. It's whatever. It's just a giant version of Michael Myers, and he's just brutal. And he's not like he was in the first film at all. It's different. There's a lot of... It's a who's who cast, much like every Rob Zombie movie is. It's pretty much, you're spending half the movie like, oh, I knew that guy, or I remember him from so-and-so, But I can tolerate the first one. But then when we get the second one, I mean, I know a lot of people are coming around to that film over the years. I'm not one of them. Then again, I haven't really given it a chance because I just did not like it as much.
The whole way they kind of set up Laurie going to the hospital and being attacked, but then it was all a dream.
It was all a dream.
And then you got Michael trying to find his mother, who's always shot in white with the horse.
The horse.
And everything. And the dream sequence, everything there.
I think for me, the biggest sin for part 2 is the fact that he took Scout Taylor Compton's Laurie Strode and Loomis.
Yes.
Malcolm McDowell.
Malcolm McDowell.
I get it. Malcolm McDowell. He took those two characters who I actually liked in the first movie, and he made me absolutely loathed them in part 2. I know a lot of people are saying that Scarlett Taylor Compton, she's really good in part 2. Her acting chops come out. She's annoying as shit to me in part 2.
She's so hateful to everyone. She's like, just hates everyone.
She's a despicable person.
She's just screaming at everybody there.
He got everything about PTSD ass backwards, Rob.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I still don't. I have no idea what he did with the Loomis character. Why he made him as hateable as he did. Like, he's pretty much just like this snob. He was like above everybody. Mm-hmm. Because he made a successful book in between those movies. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's... I don't know.
Even Rob Zombie himself said, I don't want to make another one. But then the producer's like, well, we're going to make one without you. And he's like, well, I better make one to end my vision of these movies and everything. Just seemed like a cop-out.
End his vision. And then the Weinsteins wanted to make a third one without Rob, but using the same, continuity.
Style.
He wanted to bring everybody back. I guess Tyler Mane, Scarlett Taylor Compton. And then just not have Rob direct it, because I guess Rob was out. So... I don't know, but that eventually turned into, which we'll eventually get to, 2018.
Yes, and that's probably a good segue right now into Halloween, the 2018 version. David Gordon Green's...
Yeah, the final timeline of this crazy franchise.
Crazy franchise. I know highs and lows there. I don't know, Jason. Did we do your thoughts about the Halloween 2? Do you?
Oh, I hated it. I hated that fucking movie.
Okay.
I was so surprised you guys just jumped to it.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I fucking hated it because I was with it during the hospital part, and I'm like, okay, this part's good. And then after she woke up, but it's like, okay, then he just turned it into like a fucking like art film with the whole images of the mom on a horse and all that shit. I was like, what the fuck is this? And it was super long. It was like over 2 hours, I think. Or at least it felt
movie,
like. It felt like over 2 hours anyway. Mm-hmm. But I fucking hate it.
So anyways, Michael Myers walking around with his mask and his burlap sack.
So now we have Halloween 2018, and in this one, it gets rid of all the other sequels. So I guess after the first movie, Michael Myers is captured, and he's living in this very secure prison, and you got these two podcasters who are coming to interview him, and they have his mask with them, and I believe they want to do this whole true crime expose on Michael Myers because I think in their minds they think he may be innocent and wrongfully imprisoned, from what I gather from that, or they just went to...
I don't think it's so much that. It's just the fact that they wanted to touch base on this 40-year-old case that was kind of like, I don't know, unanswered. Because you still have Laurie Strode and Michael Myers in the same town, but one's, incarcerated, the other one is just being a survivor after all these years. And I think the intention was, like, more than anything, kind of like get them back together to reunite for the first time for the little podcast or whatever, but as you can,
but it seemed like when they
never got that far.
When they're going to interview Laurie Strode, the podcasters always have that vibe of like they're almost in a way blaming her for all the violence that was caused in their town. It just seemed to be that. Which is
kind of a running theme throughout those three movies, especially once we get to ends, and like the entire town is like turned on Laurie Strode essentially.
Okay.
I think it kind of like starts with that, with what you're talking about with the podcasters.
And not only that too, but you got her daughter and her granddaughter, and
Karen.
Laurie Strode's played by Judy Greer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I know. But her whole life, she's been in survival mode, and each year Michael Myers has not been coming to get her and everything, no matter how much preparation has been doing. And it takes a toll on the family where they're estranged. Both her daughter and Laurie Strode just don't talk much to each other. And then Michael does escapes from the school bus, and he goes on his killing spree. I do like this one very much. I like the alternate timeline where Lori is tough. She's been prepping for this her whole life and just will not let anything get in her way. I don't necessarily like the doctor character, who I guess is been learning from Loomis. I didn't care much for him.
Dr. Sartain.
Thank you.
He's literally in the film, and to have that us wrestling fans call a heel turn. It basically happens to get Michael to Laurie at the end. That's the only reason that happens. It's ridiculous.
And then the doctor changes and suddenly wants to become a killer.
Well, it's the doctor. It's they see Michael. It's the doctors with the deputy character, Will Patton and Andy Matichak, the granddaughter, Allison. And they see Michael, and then that's when Michael he hits Michael, and then when he gets out or whatever, the doctor reveals the scalp or whatever and stabs him in the neck. And here's the thing. I've seen 2018, a handful of times total. Okay. And I have this vivid memory of once the Sartain, stabs the Will Patton in the neck and all, and then gets in the car. He pops up and has the mask on, that stupid thing, and then he gets Michael in the back seat with Allison to take him essentially to Laurie so they can have the reunion. When he takes off, I swear to God, you hear a squish sound effect as if he's running over Will Patton's head. But then, that gets retconned, the first 2 minutes of the kills, because you see that he has survived and his head's still intact, and he has, you see he has the neck injury, but he's obviously, not as dead as Dillinger, as you would consider him at the end of 2018. But, I like 2018. I always have. In fact, I like all three of these movies. I know everyone has their issues with, especially the sequels, but I'm here to tell you what I like and what I don't like. There are certainly things about these movies I do not like as well. But just letting everyone know right here, right now, I like the Blumhouse trilogy.
I will say one thing before Jason gets your thoughts. I do like the character of Julian in this, the little boy, because he seems to be the most smartest character in this movie about how to avoid the killer here.
The comic relief of the movie.
Well, he's maybe the comic relief of the movie, but he's a smart guy too, and all the other characters are just doing these really dumb choices. I think the characters in number 2 get a little bit more dumber as the story goes on there, but he's the only comic relief that actually has intelligence in there. And I love how they do get him trapped, and they do burn him. I thought that was absolutely great. And I even like the end scene, which kind of calls back to Halloween 4, with Andy Matichak holding the knife. You're not quite sure where it's going to end.
Close-up shot.
This for me felt like the Force Awakens of Halloween, which I'm
totally cool with. Compared to that when this came out, a lot of people.
And I'm one of those people too. And I thought it was a very fun, all the greatest hits of Halloween were in this. The long tracking shots, the music. I thought it had a really well established Michael Myers character in this one, much more better than the Rob Zombie films, or even
before Jason goes though. I'd be remiss if I did not bring up talking about this movie in particular.
Okay.
The kill sequence when he's back in town at that long shot. It's like a 3-4 minute shot of him just going around killing random people. It's great. It's something that's different for a Halloween movie, and I loved it when I first saw this in the theaters. I went to an advanced screening of all three of these movies, actually. But when I first saw this, I was like, holy crap, that's different. I like that a lot. And still to this day, whenever I watch 2018, I look forward to that long shot. It's just, I think it's great.
Damn right. Jason, quick thoughts on Halloween.
I remember hearing about this, and I just gave a big eye roll Because I'm like, why? Like, why are we doing this again? And then they made it confusing with like, no. This is the actual sequel to the first movie.
Right.
Or retconning everything. And then I'm like, okay, but why is it also called Halloween? So I was very resistant of this, and I waited until it came on like the streaming sites to watch it, because I was like, I can't. I'm tired of fucking Michael Myers at this point. Like, how many fucking times are you gonna do this? And I remember liking it okay. It took a little bit to get going, but then once it got going, it was pretty good. I liked the whole wild Laurie in the woods, and she's a survivor woman now, and she has traps all over the place and stuff like that. And then introducing podcasting to it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's okay. And then we had to get two more after this.
Yes. Let's get into them right now. Halloween Kills were introduced to Tommy, this time played by Anthony Michael Hall, and I believe it's the actual original actor who played the girl.
Kyle Edwards.
Yeah,
Yes.
Kyle Edwards. Yes.
Yeah, she reprises her role of what's her name, Lindsay.
Lindsay,
Yeah,
thank
Lindsay.
you.
Everyone is back that are supposed to be, with
mostly,
the exception of Brian or Brian.
Tommy.
What's his name? Brian Andrews, who played Tommy Doyle,
Yeah.
was not
Yeah.
asked to come back. You know, I've heard that he was not in acting anymore, kind of fell out of acting, and then I heard that he's just kind of not quite right up in the head these days, and that's why they didn't ask him to come back. Regardless, we got Anthony Michael Hall in the role. My biggest issue with this movie, because I think this movie is brutal as hell.
Oh,
the thing
yeah,
I love most
the
about
kills
this
are
movie,
brutal.
I just love the fact that
They're-
it lives up to the title. That Michael Myers is just a pissed off killing machine for an hour and a half. I love that. I hate the writing in this movie. I hate the screenplay so much. I hate Evil. If I never heard Evil Dies Tonight, if I never heard that again, I would die
Evil
a
Dies
happy man.
Tonight. Hey, did you know that
Because that
Evil
had me
Dies
out rolling
Tonight?
my eyes in
What?
the theaters. I was like, what is this? I think I've heard Evil Dies Tonight like 25 times in this goddamn
Just in
movie.
case you
What
didn't
is
know,
wrong?
Evil Dies Tonight.
Thank you.
I just want to remind
Forgot.
everybody out
He
there.
dies tonight.
Evil
He die
Dies
next
Tonight.
year, not tomorrow, but
It's
tonight.
Dice Tonight, motherfuckers. All right.
I'm gonna
right.
jump in here with one of my favorite tidbits about this movie, is that Bob Odenkirk has a cameo in this, and I don't know if anyone knows this or not.
He's
They were
Bob.
trying to show pictures of Bob, but they couldn't get like the rights to the actual guy's photo or something, or
They couldn't find the guy,
likeness.
even though he's now doing the convention circuit and stuff. But like when they
so
were filming this, they couldn't find him.
They noticed that Bob had an extreme resemblance to Bob Odenkirk, and so they got Bob Odenkirk's permission to use his actual like high school photo. And like there's that news segment in the bar, and they're showing like this was Bob and the victims of the of the original slayings and stuff, and it's fucking Bob Odenkirk. And I remember looking at that, and I said, "Oh wow, he looked like Bob Odenkirk. Okay, that's cool." And then I think I read the credits, or I was reading the trivia. I don't remember, but it says something like, "No, that was actually Bob Odenkirk," and that is such a fucking baller move. I really respect that.
Yeah.
This is so funny.
Here's
I
funny.
did think it was kind of cool how they did go back to like shoot scenes from the first movie, but kind of do an
Oh yeah, the
alternate version of
flashback,
it.
dude. The flashback is awesome. It's
Those
so
are actually-
authentic. It looks like Dean Cundy shot it.
Yeah.
It's got everything from the detail of their uniforms is just perfect. I love it. It's just it looks like they went back to '78 and shot this for like
Yes.
15 minutes or so.
I was
I mean,
so...
the biggest surprise was the guy who resembles Loomis. Like, I remember hearing the voice when I went to that
Yes.
screening. I was like, I hear the voice. Are we gonna see him? Are we gonna see like some deep fake? And I thought it was a deep fake, but then lo
Yeah.
and behold, it's a guy who worked in the makeup department, or it might have been some other miscellaneous crew. they saw that he had kind of a resemblance to Pleasance, and they just had Christopher Allen Nelson, who did the makeup work for all 3 films. They had him, sit in a chair for a few hours while he did him up to look like Dr. Loomis from '78. And they did a bang-up job.
They did a great job with that. Everything from those scenes were that's the highlight, and that's
even Michael looks great. Even the Myers mask and everything from the '78 flashback scene looks awesome.
It makes me want to. I probably will go back to see Halloween Kills, just because the effects are amazing in this. I think Laurie Strode wasted the whole point of them chasing the short little guy, thinking it's Michael Myers, is just really dumb. They could have easily just cut a lot of things out of this movie to make it just a little bit more streamlined, better. But it's good. It says the title is right there, Halloween Kills, and that's what this motherfucker does. Michael Myers just kills a whole lot of fucking people. And I think we're going to get more to the most diverse of movie in the franchise. And I know you, Jason Soto, have said you've never seen this one yet.
Yeah, I didn't get to ends yet. I just never got around to it. But I don't mind spoilers, so you guys can keep talking freely about it. It's fine.
Okay.
And I'll still watch it. So by all means, but I will be quieter than normal now. So by all means, continue.
What are your thoughts, Ed, about the Cameron character being in this one, and how he's taking over the reins of Michael Myers?
You mean Corey?
Corey, thank you. I want to say Cameron.
I was going to say Cameron's the boyfriend from Kills in 2018.
Okay, Corey.
I do want to start off before I say anything about Ends. I just want to go on record and say that Halloween Ends is my second favorite film of this entire franchise.
Wow. Okay.
I love this movie. I love the balls that it has to just... I don't want to word this.
Because,
you're going into this expecting a big finale between Laurie and Michael. You get that, but this movie's not that at all. In fact, I would argue this isn't even a Michael Myers movie. And the fact that they waited to the last film of the franchise to pull the rug from under you, to give you something different, something that piqued my interest for an hour and a half, something that I just felt took a lot of courage, and I felt that it was a nice surprise. I really, really, really like the Corey Cunningham character. I hear everyone's issues with this movie. I do. I hear them. But this movie just has so much to it that you just weren't expecting. I wasn't expecting going to this movie what I got. When I went to that screening 1 year ago, I was like, okay, I know this is the last movie. I know that this film takes place, 3 or 4 years after the last one. Like they're kind of like keeping with the times. It's not like the same night anymore. There's a flash forward, and what they did with that, I love the cold open that sets up Corey Cunningham and what happens that kind of like makes him perceived by the town, and it's just, I don't know if it's the Haddonfield hangover, as I call it, that took place in Kills is kind of like still happening with this Corey Cunningham character, but what they did with him and made it, potentially made him, a new Michael. It's just, it's different. It totally was different, and I was here for it all.
I like what they have for the Corey character. I just kind of wish that he was introduced a little bit earlier in the franchise.
I've always said that in a perfect world he would have introduced him in 2018 and just had him as a character, kind of like in the background, and then made this his movie. But the pandemic actually happened, and they kind of had to go back and go back to the drawing board with this film. So.
And what you're describing about this movie, Ed, sounds like a really, really good movie. And I don't know why it is, but it just felt odd having it and a Halloween movie. But we had so many
I
sequels
understand
with
that.
the same things over and over again. So having it become something fresh and something new is really good. And I admire it solely about that. And I kind of wish that a lot of original movies would do these sort of things. And it's sort of these weird things happening now where all original ideas have to be put into like an IP and in a sequel to make it happen. Because if they did tell the story in its own like original format with all new characters, it would never be seen. It would be probably a show that was moved straight to streaming,
Right.
or back in the day, it just goes right to video. And put it into Halloween franchise is a good way of telling that story. And your thoughts of it makes me want to go ahead and revisit the movie, because I was like in the middle of it though. I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it.
I understand that. And I'm used to hearing that. You know,
Yeah.
I saw something in it that was just different, and you know, it to me was a movie that I feel like David Gordon Green and Danny McBride were. They took this film very seriously, and they did something that, you know, they took a risk. They took a huge risk, and I understand most of the fan base, because I've been hearing it for the last year. You know, they weren't happy with what they did with it, and people write this film off. And I hear you all, I really do. But personally, this film, I just love the steps that they took, the swings they took. I love little things from the Halloween 3 font that they used throughout, and that, you know, and the fact that Corey, when he's babysitting Jeremy in the openings, the cold open, they're watching Carpenter's The Thing. Kind of a play on, in the original Halloween, they're watching the original 57, I think it is.
Version.
The Thing. It's you know, a little weird that it's like, oh, now Carpenter takes place in the same universe or whatever. It's not here nor there. It's the film overall. You still, for as much as the film does center on Corey Cunningham, you still get Michael Myers, of course. You know, and you still get what the film was marketing to everybody. You do get Michael versus Laurie one last time. It could have been longer, but when in a movie that's so packed, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie as it is. I think it's the right amount. I still think they dedicated the right amount of time for Michael. You know, the film makes you wait 42 minutes until they give you Michael Myers.
That's true, yeah. For the longest
like
time, he's like,
the
not even in this.
It's crazy, they know.
Yeah.
And yet, this movie, to me, is still the second best of the franchise.
Okay.
So,
well,
take
hey,
that as you will.
I'm liking that very much. We
did a whole deep dive on this movie on our podcast, so you know,
I'll go back and listen to
if
that.
you want to hear more of my thoughts on it for a few hours, I have a lot to say about Halloween Ends in detail.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, gentlemen, we actually were able to do the whole Halloween franchise in just under like 90 minutes, which I'm very impressed by, the fact that we were able to cover the movies as best as we could there.
It kind of helps that there's some that we don't like, so we're just like, yeah, that happened. Anyway, next one.
Right.
It's pretty about that one. There's not going to be a deep dive to Halloween 5, all right?
No.
Or,
I did that already on my podcast.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow, okay.
We did every single Halloween film the year that we started our podcast. Actually, we did one episode or one film a month. But yeah, we got the 5, which means we got the Resurrection as well.
Oh, I'd rather go back.
We
and
didn't
check
do the
those
Rob
out.
Zombie films though. We didn't do those yet. I said
right.
yeah, like they're gonna happen.
Yet.
We didn't do those.
Okay. Well, this is the perfect opportunity right now for each of you to just give some plugs and tell listeners first of all, where to find your podcast, and then tell us what new episodes you guys have coming out. I'll start with you, Ed, from Film Effect. Tell us, since this episode's coming out on Halloween Day, what episodes you have out now for Film Effect podcast.
Well, if you happen to check out the Film Effect podcast today on Halloween, we also have a big Halloween megapod going on that was being released, not as short as ours. It was about 4 hours long, but it was a fun one. It was me, myself, Stu from the Stu World Order podcast, Pete from, oh my God, what is his podcast called? Shit. I'm sorry, Pete. I love you. And Carlo from the Movie Loot, as well as Kev from the podcast That Wouldn't Die. And we basically went through each film, dedicated about 15-20 minutes to each one. At the end of the episode, we rated our top 5 favorites, and it's a good one. But we're actually closing up on our horror-thon for the season of the horror-thon. Just did an episode last week on Jason Goes to Hell, celebrating the 30th anniversary, and I was able to, I was happy to have the director of that film, Adam Marcus, join me for that episode. That's a good one.
Nice.
Vern, we just did Fright Night together. That episode just dropped as well.
Fun show.
And we also have episodes coming soon on, let me get to my notes real quick. So we got a lot of stuff coming out in podcast land, but Night of the Creeps, Judgment Night, An American Werewolf in London, Urban Legend, Land of the Dead, Prisoners, and our Thanksgiving episode will be on Blood Rage, a forgotten slasher classic from the 80s. And that'll will be joined by Josh from Your Next Favorite Movie for that episode, so check that out when it drops on Thanksgiving. Other than that, we are the Film Effect Podcast. We do a deep dive every week on a different movie. Everything from the box office numbers to why Martin Sheen really got drunk filming Apocalypse Now. Stuff like that.
Nice.
Deep dives. Like, real thorough stuff. So, Film Effect Podcast. Get to know the films you adore a little more with the Film Effect Podcast. Deep dives, top fives, and good vibes, all for the Film Effect archives. Check us out every Tuesday. We're on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. We're there.
And I'll be sure to put links in our show descriptions to find the Film Effect Podcast.
There you go.
Follow them on all the social links and everything. Great group of gentlemen right there. And it's been a blast being on your show. Thank you very much, man.
It was fun. Thanks again for doing it.
Mr. Soto here, the guy who we're just we're hearing his voice, but not his face. You're like this entity right now, this like supernatural entity. What's going on with the Rabbit Hole podcast?
So on Halloween, 2 different episodes went up. First, our very own the Vern was on the latest episode of Whatever with Jason Soto. I did something a little different. I told Vern campfire stories. But then Vern learns a very horrible truth, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes, bad things happen.
Then my other show, That's the Bombio, 90 Hella Rad Movies from the 90s, is coming back, and I thought I saw that it normally would have came back on Halloween, so I was like, oh, that's a perfect time to bring it back, and we got to do something kind of... See, what I like to do with that show is I do something off-kilter. I don't do anything super direct. Outside of doing Die Hard 2 on Christmas, but that was a gimme. I had a friend. I have a friend named Shauna, who Vern, and she wanted to be on one of my shows, and so I said, "You want to come on? That's the Bombio. Talk about a '90s movie," and I gave her the list, and there's a list of '90s movies I made, and she picked The Crow.
Okay, nice.
And so we talk about that over on That's the Bombio. And then I don't know what else will be happening that week, the week that this is coming out, because like I said, I'm not feeling super great, so I don't know if I'll be up to recording any new shows in next week or so, but here's what you can do, listeners. Just go to rabbitholepodcast.com. That is where you're going to find every show that we have there. We have a lot of shows. We have shows for anybody. If you're into music, we got some music shows. If you're into breaking down certain TV shows, we got that. We got a book club show, of course, movies, and then whatever is the comedy show. We just get silly. I tell dick jokes. It's a blast. So you can go find all that over at rabbitholepodcast.com, and hopefully there's a show there for you to subscribe to us over on Spotify. So there you go. That's
before,
it.
I'll post links in our show descriptions as well. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being on the show. For Cinema Recall over on our Patreon page, again, patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod. We're going to be releasing a special episode with Ashley, my co-host, and Chris Revel from Let's Chat with Chris Revel, talking about the cons that we are going to be attending. Just a quick little preview about the different cons that are going to happen, and then I'll post to the main feed this weekend. Be sure to find us on the social media page at cinema_recall on both Twitter. I'm calling it Twitter. I'm not calling it fucking X, alright? It's still Twitter. Find us there. Find us Instagram, because we're going to be doing some live streams over there about the different things we find at the convention. Hoping to meet some celebrities out there and hopefully try to take their picture before I get kicked out by security. Who knows, but we're going to just do a bunch of videos and whatnot at Twin Cities Con is where me and Ashley will be. And then our buddy Chris, he's going to be at the Rhode Island Con. And so yeah, so that episode is coming to Patreon the same day as this episode airs everywhere else. And then that episode will appear to the main feeds on the weekend. We have an upcoming episode with Josh, who did a documentary all about podcast. We got that coming up soon. Check out our past episodes where we did interview the writers and directors of a fun horror sexploitation film called Murder Size. That was a fun one. And then we recently interviewed the the event director of two film festivals. One's the Psychedelic Film Festival in New York, and the other one was a Philip K. Dick Festival happening in London. Our good buddy Jason Soto was on a recent episode of Cinema Recall, just random hijinks we called it, where he just talked about random movies. A lot of fun. Go check that out as well. You can find that, as I said before, on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Our website again is cinemarecall.net. You can find us basically everywhere podcasts are. I've said that before. That's it, folks. Again, thank you very much for listening. Thank you so much to my wonderful guests here. Again, Ed from the Film Effect Podcast. Go check his show out. I can't recommend any one of them. They're highly enjoyable. They go into deep dives with them. And Mr. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcast that has just tons of shows. I listen to whatever every time that show comes out. I think you, Bear, and Lisa have this great chemistry with each other. I could gush about every one of you all day there, but it's time to go, and just want to say thank you very much for listening, everybody.
Toodles.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I'm gonna stop.